virtualization, and also we're going to talk about the AWS related services, features, and out of AWS we're going to talk about the EC2 component and then S3. Also I'm going to show you some demo as part of it, as part of this webinar, and I'm going to deploy one of the application in AWS EC2 instance, so probably you can visualize the kind of use what we can do with the AWS. So let's get started. So what we have today as part of the today's webinar, we're going to discuss about the EC2. Okay, I'm going to talk about the cloud computing related to the AWS services, and we're going to also talk about the EC2 supported OS and software. I'm going to also talk about the number of services which we are getting it. We are going to talk about key and pairs related stuff, and then I'm going to end with the deploying an application which is Java based application which I'm going to deploy on EC2 actually. So this is the overall activities which I'm going to show you as part of the webinar. So let's understand that what is the AWS. So AWS, as we know, like it stands for the Amazon Web Services. It's a secure cloud-based services as a kind of platform where we can the unlimited computing, based unlimited storage, and we can we can grow the infrastructure based on our needs. So it's like that. So we have a storage, we have a computing power, we have a processing speeds, and everything we can get it on the cloud itself, on the AWS cloud itself, and all these services which is being provided by the AWS in form of different platforms actually. So these are the things which you're going to do that. So before that, before talking about the AWS, let me introduce some of the stuff which is very much important as part of the understanding the cloud infrastructure. And one of the things which we have like what is a hypervisor? So we have discussed so many times AWS is a cloud-based application, but when we say like a cloud-based application, it is nothing but a kind of virtualization software which it basically creates, and which it enable us to virtualize machines, virtualized software, and basically VMs instance which we can get it. So basically in this on this AWS platform we can get as much of the instance which you wanted, and these are nothing but virtual machines. But before digging out the AWS services, let me figure it out. What are the other terminologies that we have in the cloud computing? And one of the terminologies what we have in the cloud computing is hypervisor. So if some of you have worked with the virtual machines, VirtualBox, and VMware from the VMware workstation from the VMware, or probably Zen. So these are the kind of tools, these are the kind of software application which you have. Using that you can create your own private cloud services, which you can create your own private cloud network. So basically, so using this hypervisor, you can manage the virtual machines, you can monitor, you can create, you can delete, and you can almost do anything using the this virtual hypervisor. So basically this is one of the things which is very important in terms of virtualization word, and that is what it is. So now virtualization usually the word which is getting referred in terms of act of creating a virtual machines, and something which is which is available on the virtual environment. So where there is no dedicated physical hardware platform, there is no dedicated RAM or CPU or storage, but it's basically you are able to avail these services in the virtual environment, and which include this networking services also. So this is the areas which we're going to explore it. So some of the things which we have, like what is the cloud computing? So cloud computing is nothing but a kind of word which helps us to improve the efficiency of our software and hardware. Okay, so when we say like improving the software and hardware, it's like cloud computing is a kind of platform, kind of terminologies which enable us to give the unlimited computing power, unlimited storage, networking services, and all sort of services what we needed. And using that we can get as long you want it, and if you are not needed anymore, you are not using those services. So it's like that. So basically cloud computing is very popular. Coming back to our main topics, like when we talk about the AWS, okay, so basically AWS, what basically first it was described in 2003 by Chris Finham, which was the first person who presented a paper describing the vision of the what exactly the kind of the vision they have in terms of availing the infrastructure of the Amazon retail. Okay, and slowly they not only created a whole ecosystems, and not only they created the whole platforms, but also they started offering all the services as an infrastructure as a service. So that is how it has grown. So currently AWS, the platform and the services what we are talking about, is located in the 13 geographical region, and one of them are Mumbai as well. So we have one of the regions which is Mumbai, and apart from that 13 geographical region where we have the AWS services which is situated. Okay, so let me skip it, some of the history part of it. Probably it's not so much important for time being, but it's like the feature what we have it. So some of you would like to go through the path of the certification. They would like to acquire some of the certification in AWS, and we have a two level of the certification. One is a professional level, another one is the associate level, and on each of these labels we have three areas where you can get the certification. One is solution architect, which create and which basically set up the whole infrastructure, visualize it, map it, and try to connect all the missing dots in terms of storage, computing, network services, database, security, firewalls, and many more things. So basically they develop a whole solutions for any organization or any project. Another certification what you have, you can get it in the developer way, like the person who can use the AWS platform to develop application, and this platform also will help them to enable all the development, QA activities, build and release and sort of things. And another certifications what we are having is like a SysOps administrations, where the person who's going to operate, administrator, manage the infrastructure, which include the computing, which include the storage, database, IT infrastructure, networking, and many more. So basically we have these are the certification part which you would like to get into that after that, learning AWS platform. Okay, so what are the services AWS provide? So AWS has a more than 2,400 services. Okay, and so it's like a huge bucket. You have it, and you're going to take the services out of these buckets. Now, some of the popular services which we're going to talk about, like Amazon EC2. Okay, this is the kind of services you get the computing power. Computing power is like a process like a CPU, RAM, and sort of things. So you get the computing power using the Amazon EC2. You do have so many other services as well, like Amazon S3 for the storage, RDS for the database, Workmail for the emailing systems, and many more things. So we're going to talk about some of them as well as part of this. So basically our focus would be on Amazon EC2. That's like a computing power, and then we'll move on to the storage. Okay, so now if you look at the Amazon Web Services portal, and if you log into their portals, you will see the interface something like this. Okay, so you have this is the kind of dashboard what you would get it, and you have all these services which you can see it, which you can locate it under each respective section. So you have starting with the compute section, then storage section, storage and content delivery. You have a database section as well, and then developer tools, which I did talk about in terms of certification. And for the developers, you can try it out some of the features which you would like to get to the certification in a developer world. And if you would like to develop an application over the cloud, you want to do the build, deploy, release, everything, QA activities, everything you would like to do on the cloud. So they do have also all sort of services as well. So it's like this. Now we have some of the management tools also, which includes like CloudWatch, CloudFormations. So these tools are which will help you to manage the infrastructure. Okay, so AWS has divided all these services into the very niche and very unique section, and that way you can find out which particular feature is belong to the which particular section. So they have a compute, storage and content delivery, database, developer tool, management tool, security, identity, and networking. Again, if you scroll down, as of now I'm not able to do this half of the images. So internet of the things, mobile services, application services, and many more. So basically they have converted to many of the sections, useful sections, so you can find out what is the services if you'd like to use it, and you can go forward. Okay, some of the things which we are going to discuss is like terminologies, and I'm sure about if you are new to this platform, so you must be wondering like what is the EC2, what is the S3, what is the BPC, what is the ELB, and what is the RDS, and what is the IM. So these are the popular services what we use it. So once you're getting into the platform of the AWS, and then you're starting the journey with the AWS and cloud computing and things like that, you have to start with these basic services. And again, we're going to talk about this two of these services here as well. So one of the services which is like EC2. EC2 stands for the Elastic Compute Cloud. Okay, so and it's like a virtual machine. So as I have already mentioned, like if you have used VMware Workstation or VMware Player or VirtualBox or some hypervisor like vSphere and things like that, Zen or something like that, probably then you might be getting understand what is the meaning of the virtual machines. Okay, what is the meaning of the virtual machines? So EC2 is just like a virtual machine, so you get a computing power with a minimal storage. And let me tell you, when I say like a computing power and with a minimal storage, you get the storage, but which is not the storage which you get it along with the computing power, which is basically not using, should not be used for the storing your important data. Okay, this is basically to run the operating system, so you can get the computing power. So basically EC2 is just for the virtual machine, just like a virtual machines, you get the computing power. Now next one is you might be hearing a lot, that's called VPC. And why I didn't mentioning about this VPC here, because probably I'll not be able to talk much on this topic, because it's like setting up the whole network setups and whole data centers as well, like which includes the load balancers, DNS servers, and elasticity and things like that. So it's like a complicated things which is very we have a very less time to talk about. But again, if you look at it, and again I'm going to show you the place where you're going to look at it. If you log into any of these accounts using the in EC2, you're going to find out one VPC has been created for you. Okay, so basically each account you get into the AWS environment, you log in by default. By default, Amazon has provided a VPC network for you, no matter whether you create it or not. So that way what it can happen, because one data centers, they can have thousands of accounts, lakhs of accounts, but how can they differentiate between the one account to another account? How probably they are storing the data in the same database, same data centers, probably same storage, they are maybe using the same CPU, so they may be sharing the same CPU. So how can you differentiate between the one group of the network to another group of network? How can you differentiate? How can you isolate the environment from the one company to another company? Because you are having thousands of accounts at the one data centers, and you are sharing the storage, you are sharing the CPU, you are sharing the computing and everything. So how it can be? So VPC is one of the tool which can create a logical separate entities. Okay, it's like a setting up your own private virtual cloud and like that. So it can differentiate from the one account to another account. So by default you get a different VPC, and that we call it a default VPC. But again, after you log in, you can create your own VPC and you can assign as many resources you wanted, and it's like this. Okay, so next one is elastic load balancing. We call it ELB, where this is one of the most popular services if you are setting up the VPC again, and you want to have an elasticity setup in your project. So basically, it's one of the way you can do the load balancing, and you can control the traffic, you can control the availability of the servers, which can be computing, storage, or database, or any sort of services. It can be created load balancer for almost all the services what we have. RDS, It's called relational database servers. This is nothing but a kind of place where you get the database server basically. So if you want to set up a database, what do? Normally you get a virtual machines. Inside the virtual machines or maybe physical machines as well, you install the Oracle or MySQL, MS SQL, PostgreSQL or something like that. So here you don't have to install it. You don't have to spend a lot of hours, spending time figuring out how to set up an operating system, how to configure it, how to install it, how to make it up and running, everything. You don't have to do anything. Here, using the RDS services, just you can get your database servers up and running within a few seconds. Okay, so it's like that. You get the IP address, you get the username, you get the password, so everything you get it up and running within a few seconds. So that's all about it. Okay, another important services which we have is like IAM, Identity and Access Management. So here, using IAM, you can control the access of all the network, all the resources what you are availing on the AWS. So you are availing the storage, you are availing the computing like virtual machines, you are having the database servers, you are having load balancers. So you are basically controlling through this IAM, Identity and Access Management, you are controlling the access of what, like who's supposed to have access on all these AWS resources, and who's supposed to have what sort of access. Okay, so it's like you're setting up the authentication, authorizations, and something security layers for each users and groups, so you can manage all this stuff. And this is the way you can limit the access to the AWS and the resources. Also, you can grant the access, specific access, and stuff like that. So this is one of the great features what we have in terms of AWS services. The last one which I am going to talk about, like a simple storage services, and it's nothing but the place where you store the files, where you store the the data basically. So it's like a drawbacks. If you want to make it if you want to understand the simple terminology, it's like a Google Drive or Dropbox where you store the file. And let me tell you, this is not a place where you store the block store. It's not a block storage. It's not your hard disk basically. It is an object-based storage. Object-based storage, like you can store the files as it is, but you'll have to access through only the some of the protocol, which is like HTTP and things like that. Okay, so this is all about. So as part of this session, we're going to talk about two important services. One is the EC2 and another was an S3, simple storage service. Okay, so these two things we're going to talk about. Okay, so now we have already discussed these things, so let me skip at some of the things here. Now, next important things like a reason and availability zone, and this everyone has to understand very carefully. As we did talked about, AWS has around 39. In fact, one got recently added. Let me add it and let me correct myself. Is like 14. We have 14 reasons available right now. In a simple word, you have a 14 location, 14 geography. Okay, in which AWS provide all the services, whatever we have listed down. Some of the services, they have more than 2,000 services. So basically, they have 14 reasons where they provide these services. Okay. Now, if you look at this image, in each of these reasons, if you look at it, all are separate. All are separate all are separate entities. So like one reason is completely isolated from the other reason. Other reason completely isolated from the other reason. So it's like this. So each reason are not at all connected in terms of CPU, in terms of storage, in terms of processing, in terms of networking, in terms of security. None of the things are common actually. Okay. So all these reasons are separate entities, and you can try all this stuff through by selecting. Once you log in, I'm going to show you some of the reasons as well, and like that. Okay, so these are the reasons what we have here, and which is completely isolated. Now when we talk about the availability zone, so availability zone is something like this. Each reason at least will have a 2 availability zone. So again, I'm reiterating, each reason will have at least 2 availability zone. One will be the primary, another will be the secondary. It's a kind of backup. So whatever you do in one reason, whatever you do in one availability zone, automatically it will be created the snapshot in the other availability zone. So that way AWS is making sure your data backup is taken properly, the control is being taken properly, and things has been taken properly. Okay, so that way it maintains all the integrity and things like that. Okay, so each region, again, each region may have a more than 2 availability zone, but at least it will be having 2 availability zone. Okay, so that's all about it. So now if you look at this place here, we have the location where the region is the we are trying to point it out reason, and we have edge locations as well and things like that. Okay, and let me skip this one. Yeah, so some of the things is not needed. Now you must be wondering what these are why I'm using these images. So basically, if you want to know how the Amazon implement the data center, so it's like this. They have everything in form of such boxes. Okay, so inside each container, we call it a cloud container actually. So inside each containers, they have everything fitted: storage, CPU, networking, everything put it together in one containers. And whenever they want to increase the data centers, they set it up the new containers altogether. They don't set up the whole new stuff, but it just like they place the container and just put it in the with a power them, and then it start working. So it's like this. So they implement the new data center using these containers only. Okay, so this is the stuff we have it. And okay, so one of the things which is like we're going to discuss about the public and static IP address and internet gateway. So let me discuss some of the things here. Okay, so here we are going to discuss about the private IP address. So private IP address is something like you can get the private IP address in AWS, where the private IP address is not reachable by the internet, over the internet. It can be used only for the intercommunication, VMs communications, where you say like a private. So for example, you have a VPC. Inside that you want some of the machines to be not to be accessible by the outside of the world, but they should talk and communicate internally. So that way you have a private IP address. Okay, so these are the private IP address. You can assign it the way you want it. Each instance you can also assign the public IP address. Okay, and I'm going to show you again as part of the demo. The public IP address, as it suggests name itself, like this can be accessible from the internet, like public network and something like that. Okay, so each EC2 instance is associated with the public IP address, provided you are setting up this thing. Okay, another IP address which we have, like elastic IP address. So there's a difference between the public IP address and elastic IP address. Elastic IP address is something like a static IP address. Static IP address which will never change. Okay, so that's something like elastic IP address. So what happens, why we are having elastic IP address and public IP address and all sort of things? So what happens once you reboot the EC2 instance, the public IP address is not getting changed. That will remain the same. But the moment you shut it down, the VMs, virtual machines, we call it EC2 instance, the moment you shut it down, the EC2 instance, and then you start it, you lose the public IP address, because it is dynamically allocated from the pool of the AWS list of IP address. So to avoid that issues, because sometimes you shut it down, sometimes you start, sometimes you reboot it. To avoid all the issues, and you should not lose the IP address, you go for the elastic IP address. And once you assign the elastic IP address, it will never change. Okay, and you can use the same IP address throughout the uses of your cloud computing. So whatever the use you want to do. But here is the thing: public IP address is not chargeable, but elastic IP address is chargeable. So you'll have to pay for elastic IP address. So the interface which we have, like basic network interface. So let me tell you, the moment you start using that EC2, as I said, like a VPC will get it by default. So one VPC default will be created by Amazon. You will not be able to delete this VPC. You will not be able to come out of this VPC, because this is the way they separate the security processing servers and everything from the one entity to another entity, or one account to another account. So you'll not be able to set it up. So each VPC will be having dedicated virtual private clouds and things like that. Okay, this is one of the important things, like internet gateway. So what is the internet gateway? So if you want to define in a simple way, internet gateway is nothing but a kind of firewall. Okay, you have a firewall. okay, and then you put it the rules over there in the firewalls, like let's say you should be able to access 20 ports, you'll be able to access 80 ports, you should not be allowed to access any other ports or something like that. So the way you set it up the firewall in your operating system like a Windows or Linux, you enable the some port and you open that port, you block some port. The same thing we have in the internet gateway. So this is one of the very useful feature in EC2. That way you can block the access on the desired port, and only you allow the access to the only the port which you want that to be published with the internet. So that way it's very great way to control the bandwidth and great way to manage the securities and things like that. So internet gateway. So again I'm going to show the demo on this as well. Okay, so let me some of the things which I'm going to skip it. It's not so important for time being to start EC2, and so it's like this. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to have a little small demo on the EC2 front. So and then so that way you can understand in a better way and stuff like that. So before that, I'm going to explain you some of the things. So while going through the demo, you will be experiencing many of the things, and I would like to discuss some of the things here. Like while creating the EC2 instance, what are the things you're going to have it? What are the things you're going to see that? And the response would be as usual. It's something similar to the setting of the virtual machine in the VMware Workstation, VirtualBox, or Zen, or vSphere, or something like that. Any hypervisor you name it, you have the same things. What do? You select that what operating system you want. That's the first thing you select. You select the how much RAM you can assign to this. You select that how much CPU you want to assign to this machine. Okay, operating system you have selected, RAM you have selected, CPU you have selected. You want to assign the storage also. You want to assign the storage, and on top of that you want to assign some of the networking and things like related stuff, and then the VMs get created. Same procedures we follow here. In order to get the virtual machines, and that we call it EC2 instance, in order to get the EC2 instance, you have to select that which is the instance type you want it. T2, C2, M2. So it's like these are the naming conventions, nothing but to define how much CPU you want it, whether you want the CPU at the lower speed or average speed or medium or large, or what exactly the specified the things, so you get it. Okay, now next thing you select like what is the AMI, and when I say AMI is AMI stands for the Amazon Machine Image. It's nothing but a kind of ISO file you are setting up with your virtual machines, virtual VMware or VirtualBox. It's like something similar to that. So you get it, you select the AMI, and then you select the storage and volumes and things like that, and then you are getting the thing. So same thing I'm going to show you by doing it, rather than if I do not show you, and rather than if I discuss, then probably it will confuse you more. So rather than let me show you things. Okay, so now I'm going to show you all this stuff. So I'm going to start with the creating the Windows-based EC2 instance, and then again I'm going to repeat the same activity with the Linux as well. I'm going to create a security groups. I'm going to open up the ports, some of the ports which we needed, and then also I'm going to assign some of the EBS volumes. I'm going to discuss about that one, and key and pair, and then establish the session for the newly created instance. So these are the things I'm going to do as part of the labs. So this is for the Windows, same thing I'm going to do for the Linux, and let's get started. So now what we are going to do, I'm going to log into one of my accounts here. So once you have logged into your accounts, you will see something like this. Now you must be seeing like a lot of icons are there. There's so many icons which you have here. So basically these are the actions which I have put it at myself actually. If you don't want to see these icons, probably you have to do edit here. And what I'm going to do here, I should be having one icons here. Okay, so probably just because I have too many things, I have to make it smaller a little bit so I can see these options, and you can edit here. Yes, so I'm just trying to make it simple. Yeah, so this is the kind of things which you'll see it here. So now you can see there's so many things which you have it, and as I said, you have a 2,400, more than 2,400 services on EC2 and various kind of services. What I'm going to do, I'm going to get back because got into the edit mode, and which I would like to avoid it. Okay, now the thing is, you have a computing sections, and in this computing sessions you have so many services which you can see there, starting with the EC2, ending with the batch. You have a storage starting with the S3, EFS, Glacier, and many more. You have a database starting with the RDS2, Redshift, networking, migration, analytics for the big data and all, artificial intelligence. They do have a desktop and app streaming, business productivities like mailing services and stuff like that, documents, messaging, application services, mobile services, game development, and Internet of the Things, and so many management tools, security and identity. So basically, as I discussed, like we have so many services which you can see it here, and they have a sections accordingly, and they have the services. So one of the sections which I'm going to discuss is EC2. Okay, so I'm just going to click here, EC2, which is coming under the computing section. And now if you look at it, before that, here I'm into the region called Ireland region. So as I discussed, like we have 14 regions, and one of the reasons which I'm using currently is the Ireland region, which is starting with the EU. Okay, so in fact in EU they have three regions: EU, Ireland, Frankfurt, and London. And we do have one region in Mumbai as well, India. So somewhere it should be here, and I cannot see. Yeah, it's here, from the bottom section, second one, Asia Pacific, Mumbai. Okay, so this is the one. So I'm currently in the Ireland region. Okay, so now I clicked on the EC2 as the place where we're going to work on, and now we can see this one instance running, and I'm wondering which is the instance running. So you can see this, the T2 medium, and one of the instances which was running, I ran it yesterday for the some of this training and things like that. So now we have a EC2 instance, and this is the kind of view you will get it, and you can see the hell lot of navigation. So probably don't have to get confused. The things are very simple once you start getting it. My objective is very simple. My objective is to get the some of the things which is specific to the points on the EC2. So basically I want the virtual machine, Windows based virtual machines, and along with the access to be done and things like that. So now let's get started. What I'm going to do, I'm going to kill this instance. So how can I kill it? I want to terminate it. So I just select this one, go to the action, and click on the terminate. So this way I terminate this instance because I'm not going to need anymore. And now I am going to need a new instance, which is a Windows based instance. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on the launch instance. I click on it, and now here is the thing. Here you'll be asked to choose the AMI, which is says choose an Amazon machine image. Okay, this Amazon machine image is nothing but a kind of operating system you are selecting it. You have 4 tabs here. If you look at the left hand side: quick start, my AMIs, AWS workspace, marketplace, and community AMI. So basically quick start, these are the AMIs which is given by and recommended by the AWS, so you can get started quickly as possible. If you have your own AMIs, if you have your own customized AMIs, you can select from here. But as of now you can see that I have not got any AMIs, and I'm going to create one of the AMIs during this demo as well. So I'm going to show you later upon the time how can you get your own AMIs. Some of the images you get it from the marketplace also. So if you think like you have images which is already developed by someone and you would like to just use it, go ahead and use it rather than spending time on the figuring out how can you configure those images. You just go ahead, search them in the marketplace, and you get it the way you want it, whatever you want it. Okay, so it's like this. You do have a community image also, which is completely free of cost. And if you look at the community image, which has been recommended here as well, so you have a Windows, Linux, Ubuntu, Amazon Linux, everything you can find it out here. So right now, what I'm going to do, as I'm going to hit to the quick start, okay, and then here I am going to hit to the Microsoft Windows Server 2016 base. That's my first demo, and again I'm going to show you the demo in the Red Hat Linux as well, but let's start using this one first. So I'm just going to select these AMIs and click on the select. Now here it says choose an instance type. So now what are you going to select? Basically, as we discussed, like we want to select the, after the selecting the operating system, you're going to select the how much CPU and how much RAM you want to give it to this machine, to give it to this this virtual machines. Okay, so now you have a configuration, and you have a hell lot of configuration as per the family, which you can see like a general purpose. Okay, you can scroll down and you have a compute optimize, which is like a kind of large CPU and things like that, but most of the time you use the general purpose. Let's talk about this one only until you process for the AI and big data and sort of things. So here you have a general purpose, and you have a type, which is like starting the T2 nano to the so many list we have it. Okay, so and here these types is nothing but they define the how much CPU you have it and how much RAM you have it. So if you see it here, if I select the T2 medium, okay, T2 medium type, which has a 2 CPU, 4 gigs of RAM, okay, and it has a storage which is EBS. So EBS, I'm going to explain it again one more time, but for time being I'm just telling you EBS is basically here is a temporary storage you're going to get it. Okay, remember the moment the storage what you get it here, if you stored any important files, and if you lose the virtual machines, you won't get the file back. It's lost forever. So remember, this is only for the operating system and only for the computes, only for the running the virtual machines, nothing more. Okay, so that's EBS you should not use for the normal data storage, which is very important for your projects or setup or things like that. So right now what I did, I'm just selecting the family general purpose, type T2 medium, CPU 2, and then RAM 4 with the EBS, and I just click on the next configure instance type. Okay, so now here as it suggests, now it's asking you how many number of instances you want, whether you want 1, 2, 5 or 5,000, how much you want it. Okay, so it's basically you're going to define it how much you want it here. So I'm going to put 1. Probably if you need a 5 with the same configuration, same setup, you can put it 5, and with 5 will be created within a few seconds. If you want 10, you can put it the 10, and based on your requirement, basically you're going to put it here. Okay, so this is a number of instance which you're going to select it. Second option, which you have a purchasing option, and when you talk about this purchasing option, and here it says request spot instance. What is a spot instance? So basically what Amazon is doing, they have in some of the region, it's not all the region. Okay, let me see that if this region is having available the spot or not, and it says not available. There's no spot capacity for the instant T2 medium in availability zone. So basically what they're saying, before that let me explain you what is a spot instance. So spot instance is something like a kind of offer. It's like offer. Okay, so what they do, what Amazon they provide, if they have an instance, they have a resources, they have a capacity and not utilized to the maximum level, and they want to utilize it. Actually they want to utilize it, they want to maximize the utilizations and all stuff like that. So what they do, some set of resources they make it open for the bidding process, and these biddings are damn cheap. Okay, so these biddings are damn cheap. So if you want to get the resources through the bidding, again I'm reiterating, if you want to get the resources through the bidding on the damn cheap cost, then you click here, and then whatever the machine you are setting up, you will be applied using the spot instance. Unfortunately for this type T2 medium in this availability zone, there's no as such offer given by the Amazon. Okay, so that's the reason it says no available. That means there's no spot capacity for the instant M2 T2 M dot medium. Probably if you go higher, you might get it. Again, depends on that Amazon. They have available resources. They provide it this as part of the bidding process, and then you get it. One important thing you should have to remember here, even though if you get it the spot instance or the lower cost, if someone outbid you, you will lose all the EC2 instance immediately. Okay, so again I'm reiterating, the moment you have did the you did the bidding and you won the spot instance, but any times if someone outbid your amounts and they are asking for they are paying for the more than what you are paying as part of the bidding, so you will immediately lose those instances and they'll be assigned with those instances. So this is how it is. This is the game you have to play. So now you must be wondering, what's the use of it? What's the use of this request spot instances? Why should I go for the bidding? So basically, if you are needing the consistent computing power, then probably this is not a right feature to go about it. But sometimes what happens, you need just a computing power. You need to, let's say you're processing some of the AI and big data related stuff, you want to create a matrix and you are just needed a computing power. Probably you need a hundreds of gigahertz of RAM, CPU and things like that, and you don't want to pay for that. So you just go for the bidding, and by going through the bidding, you pay for the damn cheap. You pay damn cheap, and basically you don't care about, even though if during the processing, if someone is outbidding your resource and you lose it, because you just care about the processing is done and data processing has been completed and things like that. And if even though it's not completed, it is not in so much important for you. It's like that. So basically, this feature is important only those case scenario when you have a processing, when you require a processing with the low importance of the data to be processed and things like that, then in that case this is very useful. Okay, now here third option which you do is a network, and as I said, like by default you get the one network which is a VPC default. You can see on my screen, you get this by default. Okay, so each account you create, and you get the things, you get the one VPC created for you yourself. You cannot get rid of this VPC. And yes, if you want the more VPC to be created, you can create it using the create new VPC. You can configure it, you can create a subnet, you can security groups and everything, you can set it up. But again, as of now, this is out of scope for our webinar. Okay, so this is the one network which is like a VPC which we have selected. Subnets which you select, like which are the IP range you want to assign with all these things. So as of now here, if you see that we have a default VPC which has 3 subnets, 1A, 1B and 1C. And if you look at it, all these are nothing but availability zone actually. So these are different availability zones. So these subnets are located. So I will go with the default options. And domain join directories, as of now we have got none of the active directories and IAM roles and things like that, so it's not important for now, for time being. Here, shutdown behavior. So when something happen with this, what should be done, whether this EVM should be stopped or whether it should be terminated. So what do you want to do that? So basically it's like it should be stopped, not terminated. So it's like this. So you're going to set it up all these features and then click on the add new storage. So this is the fourth section you get it, where you are selecting the storage. And as I said, here you are getting the storage. One is an EBS, which is a temporary storage, and second one is a permanent storage, which is like a non-EBS. So here, if you want to add the permanent storage, you have to click add new volumes, and I'm going to come back on these features later upon the time. But here, as part of it, you're going to, as part of the computing, you're going to add maximum of the 30 gigs of space. Okay, I just said free tier eligible customer can get up to 30 GB of EBS, general purpose SSD or magnetic storage. So basically you can get it as long you want it, but the moment you increase the more than 30 gigs, your free tier eligibility will be come out of it and you'll be charged for it. Okay, so you have to be very careful. But again, the free tier has eligible only for the, in terms of storage, only for the 650 hours. So you'll have to also look at that figure. Right now I assign the 30 gigs which was available for me, and then click on the add tags. Now here you can add a tags, and basically tagging is nothing but a kind of labeling the instance which you are creating. So you can name it the way is for the production, integration, for the pre-production QA development, or Jenkins servers, or anything as such. But whatever the cause you are creating this tag, you can assign it. So basically I'm using for the webinar, so let's use it the purpose, and the value is webinar. So basically in future, if I want to you want to do some scripting and automation, you can do this. If purpose is a webinar, then list out those EC2 stands or do some activities and stuff like that. So these are things which can be done. Now, sixth form, you're going to set it up the configure security group, and this is the stuff which I discussed while having discussion in the PPTs. Security groups is nothing but a kind of firewalls. Okay, security group is nothing but a kind of firewalls where we set it up the firewalls. And here I am having some of the existing firewall. As you can see, it name is default, which I get it by default. ITC, skill speed 2, Soman, second day, or something like that. So I get so many firewalls here, but this time I'm not going to use any of these existing one. Rather, I'm going to create a new one, because it's like a demo. I should be able to show you the whole flow as part of the EC2, how you're going to use it. So I'm going to create a new security group. Again, I'm going to reiterate, the security group is nothing but the kind of firewall which you created. Okay, the place where you open the port, incoming, outgoing connections and communication networks you allow to the public network. So now I'm going to name it this security group's webinar. Okay, webinar Saturday. Okay, and I'm going to put the description same as it is, and then as it is a Windows server which I'm configuring it right now, I am going to select the RDP. And RDP, you know, the by default RDP, if you want to do that RDP, like you want to connect from the one desktop to another desktop, Windows based desktop, this is the port by default it has to run. Okay, so 3389, and it should be allowed from the anywhere. Okay, so I just set it up and review and launch. So this is the seventh forms, and in that, whatever you set it up, you have to review. As of now, some of the warnings which is there, like webinar Saturday is open to the world and stuff like that, so I'll just skip it. I assigned T2 medium variables, 2 CPU, 4 gigs of RAM, EBS storage only, temporary storage only, and these are the 2 ports which got open here. I mean, same one port is got open here. Instant details, these are the instant details, these are the storage details which you have it, and these are the tags which I set it up. So now everything is, I just have a review and then click on the launch. The moment you click on the launch, you'll be prompted for the keys, and remember, this key is very much important. So whatever the EC2 instance you are creating it, in a simple word, whatever the VMs you are creating it, how can you access that to from the outside of the world? How can you access from the LAPI, your company premises? These keys is important for you. Using these keys only, you can access these resources. If you don't have this key, you will not be able to access. Okay, so it's like this. So now what I'm going to do is, rather than choosing the existing key pair, I am going to create a new one. So okay, let's create a new one, and I'm going to name it this again, webinar key. Okay, and I just name it, it's a new one, and I'm going to download it. Okay, and I just got it here. I'm going to store it, this webinar key, in my directory here. Remember, my key name is webinar-key.pem. Okay, so now I just download it, and remember, this key is very important for you, because if you lose this key and it's get into the wrong hand, they can access all of your resources. Okay, so this is very much important. And now I click on the launch instances. So now, as instance is being created, now you see that your instance is now being launched. The instance ID is assigned to this. Okay, and everything is being done. Now you want to check that whether the instance got created or not. Click on the view instance, which is the bottom right hand of the side, and here it is. So now you have one instance which is with this instance ID. this is the type, this is the availability zone, it's in pending stage, still initializing, and the things are getting done. Okay, so now you can see these are the keys which I set it up. Monitoring is disabled for this machine, so even though if something goes happen, you'll not get alerts for this. And security group which I created is webinar-Saturday, and it's a new group, actually new group which I created. So now it's running. So now it's sent, see that it got updated the status from the pending to the running. So right now you can see that. So now if you see that, we got the IP address, and this is the public IP address. Again, this is the public DNS, this is the public IP address. So now if you look at it, I am going to get the public IP address, note it down somewhere in the notepad, and now what I'm going to do, I'm just running this instance and refresh it again. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop it and I'm going to reboot it. Okay, so let me click on this instance and click on the reboot options. Okay, and yes, reboot. So I have got the VMs which is up and running, but I have not accessed so far. But just before that, I would like to show you some of the behavioral stuff of the EC2 instance. So now I just reboot, and it's showing running. I'm just waiting for this. Probably will take some time to reboot because Windows usually takes lots of time to boot and things like that. Okay, so now it seems like it's rebooted. Still that status check is initializing, but here the things are getting done. So it's like this. Yeah, so as you can see this, I just rebooted this machine. Okay, and now what I'm going to do, if you look at this IP address 54.229.66.54, so these are the IP address which you have it here, and this is the IP address which you get it after the reboot. So it's the same IP address, there's no changes. Okay, so you can see this, once you reboot that, your IP address remain the same, so you're not getting the change IP address. But right now what I'm going to do, I'm going to shut it down. So I just click on the instance and go to the instance state, and I will stop it. I just click on stop. It says, are you sure you want to stop this instance? Yes, I want to do that. And now it's stopping this instance. And you can see this instance state has been stopped. Now you lost this public IP address and everything is got lost. Now again I am going to restart this. So action state and start. So after the stopping, I am starting it. Remember, last time I did the reboot. This time I stopped and then started. Okay. And I just refresh it. And now if you look at it, IP address I'm going to copy here. This is changed. So this is what I was talking about. You have a three kind of IP address. One is private, which is only for the internal network related internal communications, and then one is a public IP address which you can access from the internet, and another one is elastic IP address. Elastic IP address which will never change. So right now this is the public IP address, so, and that's the reason it's getting changed every time. On every stop the IP address will be changed. To avoid the issues like this IP address should not be changed ever from this machine, you should always use this elastic IP address. So I'm going to show you this elastic IP address in a while. This demo I'll be showing you in some time. Okay, so now what has happened? Till now I got these machines, and now the time has come once we have to get this machine accessible. And how can you access? It is a Windows, and I have to access the Windows only through RDP, right? So how can you access through RDP? Just click on the MS TSC, it's like a remote desktop connection. Okay, so this is the way, and I am going to type the IP address here, and I just put it the IP address in the computer section and then click connect. So from my desktop, I'm connecting to the instance which I created, the virtual machines which I created on the AWS platform using EC2. Right now it's prompting me for the username and password. And the problem here is like I don't have username and password. What I do? So again, I go back to the EC2 and we'll have to generate the username and password for this machine. So what I'm going to do, I just click on it, the EC2 instance, click on the action, and it says like a connect or get Windows password. Either one of these, you click on it and you get it. So you just moment you connect that, you will be said this is your DNS, public DNS. It's the same equivalent to your IP address. This is your username. So I got the username. I just put it here, and then it says get a password. So now I have to get a password. So I click on the get a password, and now you will be asked to submit the PM file which you have created while creating the instance. Remember, I had created one keys pair actually, and that keys pair I have stored in somewhere in the skills feed directories here, which is, and now the key pair name was webinar-key.pm, and I selected it, and the moment it's selected, it got loaded here, and now it says decrypt the password. So that's it. Remember, as I said, this is very much important file. If anyone has this file, they can do anything on your all of your instance. So you have to be very careful while using it. Okay, and you have to keep it in a secret place actually. Now I just click on the decrypt password, and I got a password, which is this one. So now I have a IP address, public IP address, I have a username, and I have a password. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to put it in the password section, okay, and just I click OK, and now it says certificate issues and things like that, it's unusual, and click yes. And now you can see that you got logged into the AWS instance, and which is Windows based. And right now you are able to access. It's loading a little bit slow because it's only 4 gigs, and you know, so 2016 operating system is like quite a heavy operating system. It's required much more than that 4 GB of RAM, but still we get it actually. So here it is. So now you can see that this is your Windows machines. Now it's up to you what you want to do. You can continue doing it. So like the same thing, you got these machines. Here we have everything, as you can see that in Windows 2016, and you can start doing all the activities whatever you want. So this is the way we use the EC2 AWS services to get your Windows EC2 instance up and running, and this is the way you log into the EC2 instance. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to spend some of the times answering all of your questions, whatever the confusion we have, before moving forward to the line extract. Okay, so let me address some of the questions what we have here. Okay, so this question from the Karthik: does the username and password remain unchanged? When you say unchanged means, can you redefine this question, Karthik? I couldn't understand. Let me take one of your other questions again. What is the difference between the stop and terminate while creating EC2 instance? So as I said, I probably have already shown you the demo. When you stop it, you lose the public IP address, okay, until it is not elastic. It's like a static IP address. But the moment you terminate it, okay, and again, if you stop it, you can start those VMs. Again, you get the same thing as usual. But the moment you terminate it, you lose the everything forever. You lose the instance, you lose the associated file changes or whatever it is. Okay, so it's like this. Now, I'm going to take one more questions. Probably it's refreshing the Windows very fast, so let me read it carefully. So it's question from the Harpinder Kaur. Hi, can we also try side by side? Are these AWS accounts paid or free? So Harpinder, the account which I'm using right now is a paid one, but AWS do provide the free services, free accounts for the learners actually. So on that, if you're going to create a free account, you'll be allowed to use 750 hours of the services, which is applicable under the free tier. Okay, so there are some of the services which might notice you have a free tier logo on it. So those are the services you're going to try it out, and you're going to use it free of cost for the 750 hours, first 750 hours, and after that again you want to pay for those services. So it's like this. Okay, another question from Harpinder, if you lose, what's the point in selecting request spot instance? So as I said, there could be n number of scenario. Probably you don't need a storage, you need a computing, and probably you are using the computing, and when it's a computing, like you just need a processing speed. And processing speed, you don't need to have the fixed machine, so you just care about the processing should be done, that's all. In those cases you can use the spot, and which is very cheap, damn cheap. So you can use it, depends upon your scenario, and most of the time it's required when you're processing the big data related activities where you don't care about the data, but you just care about the processing speed and things like that. Okay, let me answer some of the questions, scroll it down. So there's one question from Swati Sutarave. Do we have any backup setup for the production server? Of course, yes. I'm going to talk about the backup setup as well. So let me put it these points on my notes. So I'm going to set it up the backup setup as well. So I'm going to show you how can you do the backup on EC2 instance and things like that. Okay, so there's one question from the Anthony. If I create 2 instances of 30 GB, will it be chargeable? No. And again, the charges will happen only if you cross the 30 GB. And again, if you cross the more than 750 hours. Okay, so the charges will not be applicable for you if you're not crossing the 30 GB. Okay, there's one question from Anil Jogipini. Instead of IP address for an instance, probably your question is not full, Anil. Probably you can do that better. Swati Sutrave, what hypervisor we are using for these servers? Are they bare metals? Okay. So when you say what hypervisor we are using for these servers, like these are the services which has been given by the AWS, and they are running on the hypervisor or something else. They have not revealed this information. So this is one of the secret information what Amazon wants to keep it with themselves. What technology they are using it to availing all these complex infrastructure and services, we don't know. Okay. So Kumar Krishna, if you want to connect to RDP through Linux, what configuration do you need to change in security groups while launching EC2 instance? So again, you're going to find out how you're going to connect. So if you want to connect through the Linux to the RDP, so again you require the same port. So I think you just need to open the same port. But sometimes what you want to do, you want to set it up some FTP which can be accessible over the 22, 21 or anything else. So you have to check their ports. So basically here when you do the security group setting, it's nothing but a port setup. Okay, you allow some ports, you block some ports, and it's like that. So security groups is nothing but a kind of firewalls which you can configure on the each machines actually. Okay, so next question from the Sunil Chinni, is there a way to build these server services through programming? Of course, yes. Okay, so Amazon AWS API is one of the very rich APIs what we have in among the softwares. So using these APIs, you can do almost anything what you can see me doing it through the GUI. Okay, so you can do almost everything. Okay, so you have to use the API and CLIs and things like that. There's one comment from there's one question from Deepak Mishra. How many free tier instance one can have per account? So as I suggested many times, it's not a per instance, it's like a per hours. So if you use 750 hours for the free eligible instance, you can use it, and after that automatically it will become a paid actually. But if you are using the new account which is eligible under the free accounts, but you are using the paid services, of course you'll have to pay for it. So basically you have to check which are the eligible for the free tier, and if you have not crossed the 750 hours. So you'll have to check these two parameters. The free tiers instance is not free for the lifetime. Again, I'm reiterating, this free tiers is not free for the lifetime. This is free only for the first 750 hours for the each accounts. And for creating one account, you have to add your credit card, or you have to add your company credit card or something. Okay, so that's things we'll have to do that. So now I'm going to take one question from the Jeevan Boba. Do every time we have to give saved file to see the password? How to add to domain and use current domain credentials? Probably Jeevan, I could not understand your question very well, and probably what you are saying, like you want to set it up the machines and you want to activate using the active directories or local domain setup. So if that my understanding is correct, yes, you can set it up. You have a many network and active directory related services which you can set it up. So if you remember, during the creation of the EC2 instance, it was asked me to provide, are you having some IAM roles and IAM setups? I said no, I don't want to use it. So basically using that, you can set the active directory and you can set up the control using that through actually. Okay, so there's one question from the BAMC. Can we just SSH into instance using the IP and login credentials? Of course we are going to do that, and I'm going to show you this demo in some time. Okay, and there's one question from the BRS. What IP is, when IP change, does the IP password changes? No. Password is nothing but here is your key, and it will never change until you change it manually. Okay, so if you're changing, there's a change of course, but if you're not changing the password, automatically during the creating of the EC2 instance, you are assigning the same keys every time, so that the key password you won't change, it will remain same. So there's one question from the Tirupatharao. After 750 hours, how much they would be charging? This is a very good question. So basically, if you want to know the utilization and how much you are going to pay for these services, you should come to this AWS, okay, Google, and type the AWS calculator. Okay, and here you can have the AWS calculator, and in that you can find out how much of the charge you'll be paying for the utilizations. Okay, so you can have an estimation using this AWS calculator, and this is the fair calculator which will get at least some idea about what will be your charges actually. Okay, so you're going to try AWS calculator, and then you're going to select the type, storage, RAM, CPU, network, and elastic IP address, and some additional services like a database or XYZ, and you're going to put it everything and click OK, and then you're going to tell you that how much charge it will give you per month, per hour, per day, or something like that. Okay, there's one question from the Praveen Bandaru. What domain is needed to log into this instance? So basically, I have not set it up any active directories or any sort of domains, so as of now it's public. I can access, it's just like another machine from the public network, so you don't have to set it up domain. But again, if you're using inside the corporate network, you'll have to talk to the IT people to enable these IP range for your in your organization. So you'll have to discuss with the IT team as well, so they will allow the firewall to be allowed with the accessible with this infrastructure. Okay, Sujit Narayan, can we have more than one elastic IP per AWS accounts? So it's again depend. So it's again depends. So by default, you can assign one IP address, one elastic IP address to one instance. But in the some of the scenario where you're setting the BPC and many more things, you have a container-based technology where you are using the multiple static IP address. So those cases scenario, you're going to try it out. But again, as of now, for the learners, it's not recommended. You need to have a very good network programmers to set it up all these setups actually. There's one question from the Arjun M. Similar to IAM, can we use AD or existing enterprise level LDAP to integrate the user security? No. Okay, so if you want to use the AD, you'll have to only get it from the AWS. If you want to incorporate your organization LDAP related access, and then you have to incorporate the Amazon related access. So they have to do many more setups like opening of firewalls and ports and many more ranges and things like that. And you have to assign the static IP address to all the machine services and all. So basically, the load balancers and domain DNS servers and all, this is the place you're going to get the static IP address, and these ranges will be allowed from your corporate environment, so that way it will be accessible. Okay, so again, it's a part of the network setup, and someone will be from the network background will be doing all this setup for you. So there's one question from the Vishnu P. Can we configure the same instance to elastically auto scale on the CPU and memory? So when you say configure the same instance, okay, so here if you create an instance, one instance, you'll not be able to modify the CPU and memory. If you want to get a same instance with a higher memory and CPU, then you can elast. So okay, so that way you can do that. There's one question from the Sandeep Panchal. How do we calculate 750 hours? So basically they'll have the CloudWatch. They have on services CloudWatch, which is keep monitoring what's the number of utilization we are doing, and based on that they'll keep not intimating you actually. So, and also you can find out under the usability part of the things under the account settings. There's one question from the Nagvaran Sameni. What does AWS comes under the SaaS or PaaS or IaaS? So basically it's like this, we can use just like a software as a service, okay, but some instance, some of the company, they have also used as an infrastructure as a services, like a Dropbox and many more bigger companies. They have their own dedicated centers, dedicated data centers, which is managed by the Amazon, actually AWS. So again, it's conditional actually. Okay, there's one question from the Arjun M. Is there any restrictions or recommendation for the memory setup, such as what is the maximum RAM that we can set it up? No, there is no maximum RAM availability or something like that. Depends on the how much RAM that particular region, that particular availability zone supports it. You can get as that much of the RAM for your instance. Okay, so it's basically the type. So if you want to know that the capacity of the RAM, let me show you. Let me close this one. Let me create a new instance. Let me click on this Red Hat. And if you look at the type, and you can go down, scroll bottom of the things, here you can see this 32 CPU, 128 CPU, RAM is like 1952, which I think is one of the largest setup. Yeah, so memory. So that much of the RAM you can get maximum here. That's a 2 gigabytes of RAM. Okay, so that's something like you can try it out. And again, be careful while selecting these instance type, because the moment you boot up one instance using this 1952, probably it will be bombarded with your bills, which will be beyond your credit card limits and something like that. So be mindful about it. Okay, so so next question which I'm going to answer from okay, so there's a very good question from the Dipali Patil. Initially, if we select the public IP address, then can we have the same IP to use the elastic IP address as to not lose the same instance? No, Dipali. We'll have to assign it different IP address. Now I'm going to show you how can you assign the static IP address to this machine using AWS. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going back to my EC2 instance, click on this console, click on the EC2. Okay, now I can see this, I have one instance running, which is nothing but my Windows, and I scroll down, which is the left hand side, and I click on the, I'll go to the section that is called Network and Security, and I click on the Elastic IPs. Okay, now here you have to get one IP address which will be allocated for you, and the moment you allocate new address, that will be chargeable for you. So now you have allocate new address, and now allocate the new elastic IP address by selecting the scope in which it will be used. So now I see click on allocate. Now I got this IP address which is allocated. This is my static IP address. It will never change. Now I click close. Now I have to assign this IP address to one of the instance which I am running right now, and I have only one instance. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on the allocate new address, and here, oh sorry, I have to click this one, an action, and I'm going to click on the associate address to some instance IP address. And now here I'll be selecting the what instance. So I am having only one instance which is running, and I just select it. And I want to select whether it's a public IP address or what exactly those are stuff. So I click associate. Now my IP address, my machine which got associated with this IP address 96. So I go to this instance, and now you see this public IP address got changed. So this is your permanent IP address which will never change. So now you can create exception for within your organization to be accessed with your network and things like that. So now it can be done. Now you see that the moment you change the IP address, I lost the connection, and this is the way this IP address will never change. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to stop it. Remember your IP address. Let me show you one more time. It's 96. So I'm going to stop it. I just refresh it, and still stopping. Windows is a little bit slow compared to the Linux. Still stopping it. Now it stopped. Now you see that stopped, but still that IP address is assigned. So that means even though if you start it, now stopping and start it, you get the same IP address. So that way it is like a way to assign the elastic IP address to your accounts, to your EC2 instance, which will never change, and from henceforth you can use the same IP address for any activities that you want to do. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, as this is a chargeable, and I would like to avoid the more charges associated with this IP address, or automatically it has charged your accounts the moment you assign that, the moment you get one IP address, no matter whether you use it or not. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete this instance, terminate it, and second thing you will have to do, because the charges will not be stopped until you release that IP address. Okay, so I'll have to first delete these resources which I have assigned the IP address, and now it is shutting down, and then it will get terminated over the period of time. So I'll wait for it. So it's shutting now. Yeah, so now you can see this terminated. Now I am going to my elastic IPs, and this is still there, so it's still creating a billing for me. So I'm going to delete this one. So still it's assigned to one of the instance, so that's the reason it's not able to delete it, but it will take some time. Yeah, so now it says release address. So now I'm going to release this address. I don't need this one anymore. So remember, if you do not release it, it will charge every hours, every day, every month. Okay, so you'll have to release it as soon as you create it. Okay, so that's way you can reduce the cost and things like that. So now I'm going to take few more questions. So now I'm going to take one question from the Hari. Is it possible to increase the resources like RAM, SSD for the running instance? No, you'll not be able to modify it, but you'll be able to create a new instance with a different configuration. Dipali, initially I have already answered this question probably. What I'm going to ask, I'm going to take from the Swati. This one question, if you want to increase the CPU RAM stronger, same question, so probably I have answered. Okay, so there's one question from the Vijay Reddy. Is it good to do AWS certification, and what does certification we need to do? So as we discussed, we have a two level of the certification. Let me show you the PPT one more time if you want. And the PPT which I'm having here. Yeah. So this is you have a two level of the certification which is being provided by AWS: professional level and associate level. Under each level you have three categories, whether you want to become a developer on AWS platform, or an administrator, or the solution architect. So according to their profiles, do you have a professional associate level certification, and you may try the certification after you getting the proper training and proper assistance from the expert actually. So you can try it. Okay, now let me take one of the last question. Modification. Okay, so I'm just reading this question. The window is getting refreshed too fast, so let me just take it. So now what we're going to do we get any requirement from the client to create instance with no modification in between? Because as you said, we cannot edit the memory. And so basically, yes, basically you are going to plan it out. Again, one more thing, here you are not losing the data. Again, as said, here you are just getting the computing power. So right now what you are thinking, Vishal, I know that you are thinking like, okay, if I can't create a new instance with a higher configuration, what I'll do, because I cannot change the whole configuration. So it's like this. Here creating a VM is just like a few seconds of work. So right now what you want to do, I'm going to show you in the next way in which what you're going to do, you want to boot up the same VM, same configured VM with the new setup of the RAM and new configure with the CPU. You're going to do that. So basically it's a few seconds of task. But the thing is, the storage is on different volume. You're not storing in the same machine. It's only for the computing. Again, I'm reiterating, the instance EC2 you're creating not for the storage, only for the computing. In a simple word, only for the processing, CPU, RAM, and the storage what you have got it only for the operating system. So if you have the same image what you have got it for the one which you created earlier, you can create as many instances you wanted for the higher configuration, mount the same storage, and you start getting the same services as you wanted. That's called elasticity, right? You don't have to worry about, even though the machine got crashed, machine got lost, it got happened, anything bad with them, it's not connected, you're going to get it new machines up and running, and that's a part of the auto scaling. That's a beauty of the AWS and cloud related services. Okay, so is that understood, Vishal? Yeah, so what we are doing right now, I'm going to need a kind of 10 minutes of break before we can get started. So I'm going to grab some coffee, and meanwhile you get some opportunity to grab some something to eat or drink or something like that. And I'm going to come back in 10 minutes. So it's 11:30 for me, 11:30 p.m. So I'm going to come back by 11:40 p.m. to all of you, and I'm going to continue my demo and the discussion on the AWS platform, which include the EC2, many more things, and then S3 and things like that. So let's be connected, and then I'm going to come back in 10 minutes. Okay. Hello everyone. Okay, so can we get started? Yes, cool. Okay, so let's get started. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to show you a demo. And last time what I did, last time I did showed you demo with the Windows, and now I'm going to show you the demo with the Linux. So let me get started. And what I should do that, probably I'm waiting for kind of sort of approval from the coordinator, and he should be giving me access over here. Okay, so let me get started.
Hello, this is from the Skill Speed team. Can you speak to all the participants for a minute right now, and then you can get back with your demo? Hello, everyone. My name is Shantanu. I'm from the leadership team at Skill Speed. A quick check. Can you all hear me right now? If you can, a really quick yes into your chat boxes. Great. So the reason I came on board is for twofold. Firstly, I would like to thank you for taking the time out this Saturday morning and attending this session on DevOps and AWS. We really, and also would like to introduce Skill Speed to you just for a minute. So we are an online training outfit, and we've been live for the last 2 years. And during this time, we've trained a lot of individual students across India, across UK, and across the US in high technologies. And during this time, we've also done a lot of corporate partnerships. Something which we're very proud of is that companies like Cognizant, HP, Wipro, Dell, and 50 plus more corporates in India and the US are our direct training partners. So as I was saying, I was thanking you and also introducing Skill Speed to you by saying for the last 2 years, we've been training students across India, UK, and the US. And in this time, not only have we trained thousands of students, we've also forged a lot of detailed relationships wherein all of our programs today are endorsed by 50 plus corporates across India and the US. You can see 5 here, there are 45 more. So just wanted to give you a quick introduction on Skill Speed. And secondly, I also wanted to say that the two things. So this is class 1, which you've come for. There'll be class number 2 tomorrow, which will be specializing on DevOps. Okay. So yeah, so the session will continue and cover DevOps tomorrow. And after I finish, the instructor will finish the AWS class for today. Just wanted to say that please don't miss the class tomorrow, because only all the individuals who come for the class tomorrow will be given the resources like the class recordings and also some practical materials. People who come on both days, we do our best to pamper them because they took the time out to attend both the sessions. So that's about it from my side. Just wanted to welcome you to Skills Speed and hope for you to come tomorrow because we make it very, very special for you. I'm done, and you can transfer back control to the instructor support. Please do that right now.
Okay, are you guys able to hear me right now? Yes, sorry. I think something has happened. Suddenly, the voice was lost, audio was lost. Okay, so I'm doing nothing, but I was just as we discussed, like I'm going to show you the demo this time in Linux, and also I'm going to help you in terms of running an application in Linux. Okay, so this is the same thing which I'm doing right now. So I have just selected. Let me go back here. I'm selected creating a new EC2 instance. So I'm going to select the Red Hat Linux Enterprise 7.3 and selected this 64-bit of machine, and then I'm going to select the 2 CPU, 4 gigs of RAM, which is a T2 medium, which is a type. And now here how many instances we want. So of course I want one, and rest of the remain options is remain same with like the same network, subnets. I'm not going for the spot bidding, and I have no rules as of now. So this is again is a different topics, and I'm going to cover these topics I am role in the later sessions actually. So you're going to watch those sessions as well. And right now I'm going to select on the add storage, and here I'm going to give the 30 gigs of RAM, 30 gigs of storage. And remember, this is a EBS storage. Again, I'm reiterating multiple times, this is a temporary storage. You are not allowed to store any important data on this storage. Basically, if you want to store any data, you'll have to add a new volumes actually, and that will get associated with this storage. So as of now, I'm not adding these volumes, rather than, because here we are talking about the computing, not storage, and storage is altogether different topics. Okay, so I'm going to come back on the topics again later on the time, but here let me go with the next tab and adding a tags, and as of now I don't require it. Now I select the security setup, and you remember I did set up on security groups in the Windows demo, so I'm going to select the same one, and my security group name was webinar-Saturday. So I just click on it and then click review and launch, and everything is okay. By default, as it's suggesting you have you have started with the Linux VM, so by default it open up the 22 port. If you don't want, you can just configure with it and do the things needful. And now, as you know, while launching they'll ask you which keys you want to locate it, because you have so many keys, as you can see that. But right now the key which I created just an hour ago, webinar happen key, I just selected one, so this key will be set up with my EC2 instance so I can get the access. And now launch instance. Okay, so now I got the instance. Click on the view instance, and now it's, you can see this is in pending stage, so it's under the creation. It's creation is under progress. Probably take 4 to 5 seconds more, and we get this up and running. So by the time you get this instance up and running, you get the public IP address, which is here. And now, so you got a public IP address. Now you can see that it's running. The instance ID to medium, this is in 1C availability zone, and it got some public DNS already. We got the IP address. And now if you want to look at the security groups here, that's called webinar Saturday. Here in the inbound section you have a RDP 3389, but you have not opened up the 22 port, and you know that it's a Linux, you want to access through SSH, and if you want to access through SSH, 22 port has to be open. But as of now you have not opened. So what you want to do, I am going to open up a new port which is a 22, because RDP I don't need, it's a Linux machine. But as of now, if you want to keep it RDP as well, because sometimes what happens, you want to set it to the same security group for the Linux as well as Windows, so it's good to have the both the port range allowed. So let it be, and then I'm going to add a new rules. This time add new rules, and this time I'm going to select the SSH. Okay, and as you know, SSH automatically default with the 22 ports, and then I'm going to allow this network to be accessible to from the anywhere, and click save. So now I allowed this machine to be accessible over 22 port. Okay, and that's nice, that's good. So now I'm going to do nothing, but I'm going to access this the Linux. But here is the deal, you have to do a little bit different in order to access through PuTTY. So I'm sure everyone is using the PuTTY, but if you're not using the PuTTY, then if you're using SSH space -I option, and then you can pass this PM file which I created. So if you remember, I've created on a PM file, and that's a PM file is webinar-key.pam. Okay, so this PM file you can use with the SSH and you can access it. But usually we do not use SSH with -i. Rather than what we do, we use the putty. So how are we going to add the putty? How are we going to use the putty to access this instance? So the thing which you'll have to do, there's a prerequisite you'll have to do. Putty is not supporting PM file. Okay, putty is not supporting. This supports PPK file. Okay, private keys. It's required a private key. So what you're going to do, we're going to convert this PM file to PPK file, which is a private keys file, using PuttyGen, one of the utility which you can find on the internet, PuttyGen. Okay, so if you just Google it, PuttyGen, you'll get it. Putty, the place where you get the putty, you get the same place PuttyGen as well. So here putty.org, I click on it, and under the download sections I click on it, taken me to this website, and here you have a putty. Here putty.exe, and here you have a puttygen.exe, which creates the keys and generate the public and private keys and stuff like that. Okay, so I have got this PuttyGen as well here, and now what I'm going to locate the keys which I am having PM file, which is located in skillspeed directory, and the key name is webinar-key.pem. I just select open up and then save private key. I'm going to convert this PM file to private key, and I'm just going to name it let's say webinar. Okay, webinar. Okay, and click save, and now I got this PPK file as well, as you can see that here, webinar.ppk file. Now I'm going to use this PPK file with putty to access the machine over the SSH. So now how can you do that? Simple. Now I am going to get the public IP address, and which is from this place. So here is a public IP address. Let me copy it, paste it, and now where you're going to locate the PPK file, that's a private file. So there's one option which is SSH. You click on SSH plus button, and then you get the auth location. Under the auth, you'll have to browse this PPK file, which is called webinar.ppk file. I just select it and click the open the session. So now I got this session, and it's just the first time it's asking whether you want to certify, whether you want to connect with these machines or stuff like that. Yes, I want to go ahead with it. And then it's asking you the login as a what. So now I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so people you guys can see it better. Okay, so here it is. So I just improve the console, and now every time whenever you want to know how can you access which user ID you should be able to use the access, so just click on the instance and you click on the connect. Okay, and the username what you can find it here is as below here, EC2-user. So using this user ID, you are able to access this machine. So EC2-user. Okay, and now keys has been already provided, and if you don't want to use the PPK keys using a putty, you can use also SSH command, and you can also access using this command actually. So here you are doing nothing but passing the webinar-key.pm and the whole path of the DNS name. It can be IP address as well, and this way you can do that through PM file also. But PM file is not being supported by putty, so that's the reason I had to convert the PM file to PPK file. That's a private file. So now I got this access, and now it's up to you what you would like to do. So this is my EC2-user. I have logged in. I'm into the home EC2 user. If you are logged in as a root, you have to do the sudo-s. You know that very well, probably. And I just logged in as a user. So you see that EC2-user root, and I've got the root access. And now if you look at the if config, okay, just look at it. The internal private IP is different. The external private IP is just different. Here, look at it. Here. So yeah, this is your public IP address, and the one which I am showing as part of the if config, it is a private IP address. Now if you see that using this IP address, you will not be able to access, but only using public IP address will be able to open. So why this IP address. So this IP address is basically for the internal communication between the each instance inside the VPC. Remember, outside of the VPC, this IP address will not be accessible. Only inside the same VPC, this IP address will be able to access. But from the outside, you'll be able to access using this IP address. This is your public IP address, which is you have got it over the console as well. So this is the difference between the static IP address, private IP address, public IP address, and elastic IP address. So I'm sure you got the clarity now by now. So what I am doing right now, I am going to make it up and running one of the application. And probably if you are coming and if you're having some expectation in terms of DevOps, so then I think Jenkins would be the right application, which is a Java based. Okay, it's Java based, one of the things, and it can also run with a Tomcat. Okay, so Jenkins run as a standalone as well as Tomcat, and then I'm going to run it. So what I'm going to do, first thing which I'm going to run this Jenkins application, but the web server which I'm going to use Tomcat, and then you know that to run the Tomcat you need a Java first. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to install JDK. Okay, and then next thing I'm going to install the Tomcat. Okay, and then after that I'm going to install the Jenkins. Okay, so these are the three activities I'm going to do in order to show you a demo on the setting up a web server in AWS environment, in AWS EC2 environment. Okay, so that's a thing which I am going to do right now. So what I'm going to do, first thing, as I said, JDK. So I'm going to get the JDK. So basically, JDK, you're going to get it through the wget or curl, because if you want to download through the command line, you're going to get it through the curl. But before that, what you should do, that every operating system, no matter whether you use the RHEL or Ubuntu or CentOS or any operating system, you should update their repository. And that's one of the best practices what you should do every time before setting up the thing. So that way you get the up-to-date package from the repository, which is yum apt or NuGet in terms of Windows, Chocolate in terms of Windows, and things like that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do nothing but updating these resources. And as you know that I'm already using a root, so I don't have access issues. So yum update. So I'm going to update it, and probably it will take few seconds to get updated. And meanwhile it's get updated. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to find out the commands. It's basically links. Using that, I'm going to download the Linux JDK version. So let me do that. So right now I've got this up and running. Now I'm going to get this URL downloaded, URL for the JDK. So basically I am going to put it Tomcat installation in Red Hat 7, and you have a hell lot of reference, and which will get it the way you want it, and all the reference will work almost. It's just tweaking. So now we have got it. This is a straightforward installations of the things, which probably I don't need it. I'm going to need the Java. So this is the different installations, and probably let me try the third URL if it's okay, because all the installation work, but some of the installations is just require the download and stuff like that. So probably okay. So let me get it one of the my notes. Java JDK site SCM Galaxy, because I'm just looking for the URL, which is should be straightforward. And when you download the URL through the browser, you accept their Oracle license. But if you do not, if you want to download through the command lines, you have to avoid this cookies actually. To avoid the cookies, and then you have to accept the agreements in order to download, you have to have a special commands. And I am going to have the special commands now, and which I'm going to run it. So meanwhile, I'll just check whether the yum update is completed or not, and I can see this got completed. So almost, and cleaning up things like that. So meanwhile, I'll get this stuff done as well. Okay, so I'm waiting. So this got cleaned up and then we can get started. Meanwhile, probably my internet is down or something. Let me verify. No, it's not down. I'm going to need a command line, so let me try using yum download jdk. Probably this will work. Yeah, I think I got it. So here I'm going to get this jdk 8, and how can you get it jdk 8? So this is the command, and let's just copy it so I can show you better way. And this is the command. So here what we are doing, using the wget, we are downloading this package. And but basically the why I was needed the whole command, because we can ignore their license actually. So if you are not passing this, you will not be allowed to download it. So this is important. That's the reason I was looking for the whole command. So now I can run this command, and still the cleanup is going on. Let's wait for this to be get over. And meanwhile, what I'm going to do, I'm going to set up all the commands. So this command will help me to download the JDK, which is the JDK 8. Okay, and then next command, which is the, if you remember, this is my RPM file. So I'm going to install the RPM using IVH, I for install, V for vermouth mode, H for file name. And after the installing, you're going to set the Java home. So the Java home, how are we going to set it up? So basically, you're going to try these commands. Okay. So you are exporting Java home, and this path has to be set. And again, Catalina home, you're going to set it up, and Catalina base, and everything is done. And then it should be okay. So there's no much of things is required. So let's get started, and let's wait. If you got it cleanup done, still not done. So meanwhile, what I'm going to do, I'm going to address some of your questions what we have it, and probably it's about that. So let me spend 5 minutes to address some of the questions before we get started. So let me take questions here. Please do mention any changes in installing the MacBook. So when I say MacBook, then you are using DMG file for installing the Java. So that's the one changes which you have. But apart from that, Tomcat installations, it's a remain same actually, because it's a things. Okay, so okay, so here it says Anil Jogini is asking EBS says elastic block storage, which is a persistent. It says it's confusing when you say it's only temporary. So it's like a two kind of storage you are here you are having. One storage you get it the moment you create a EC2 instance, which is temporary. The moment you add a volume, that's called EBS volumes, that is permanent. Okay, so that is persistent. So you don't have to confuse with this. Okay. When did we log in as a root? I remember you using EC2 user. So basically I did sudo. So every user, EC2 user added as a sudoers actually. So that's the reason I just sudo and I got access to it. There's one question from the Harpinder Kaur. Can we get putty IP on the putty through any commands? No, you won't get it. You have to run some of the AWS CLI commands to run it on the your account, so you get the IP address. Okay. And there's one question from the Ghana. Is the installation process is same in Amazon Unix version? Again, you have to check the Unix Amazon installation on what are the package they supported. Normally, I use Linux, RHEL, and CentOS. Sometimes I do use Ubuntu. So I have never used the Amazon Unix, so I'm not sure about what are the packages repository they are using it. Okay, so most of the time I'm on the CentOS and RHEL and the Ubuntu. Okay, so I'm going to take one more question from the Viris Badri. Can you please repeat from the PPK to PuTTY? So the concept is very simple. If you want to connect to your Linux machine, you have to use the PEM file. But PEM file, how can you connect to the Linux machine? Just click on the instance which you want to connect and then click on the action and connect, and then you get the commands, which is something like this. And it's a usual command. It's not a only EC2 or AWS command. It is a general command which you used to connect from the one Linux machine to another machines when you have a PEM file. But when you are using PuTTY, PEM file is not been supported. It requires the PPK file. In those cases, you have to convert the PEM file, permission file, to PPK private file, and then you can use in the new session. Here you put the IP address and go to SSH. Here you auth, and here you locate the private key, and then you connect it. So that's how you can use this place. Okay. Okay. So there's one question from Deepali Patil. Can we request the instance with the required software like JDK, etc. instead of you install it? Of course, that's the beauty of it. So that's what I'm going to show you in some time. So let me create images. First, I'm going to set it up from the scratch, and then after that, I'm going to create images, and I'm going to use that images every time afterwards to get my Linux with a prerequisite setup done. So that's I'm going to show you. Okay, so now I'm going to get to the demo back. So what I'm going to do right now, here I was doing something, and yes, so I was supposed to download the JDK, I was supposed to install the JDK, and I was supposed to set up some of the environment variables and things like that. And after that, I'm going to set the one of the more things which I have not done is this one. This is the one which I should do. So these are the regular activities, you know that. So path is equal to Java home bin path and all. So that's all. So I'm going to get it done, all these activities. So let me get it done. So now first thing I'm going to download. So before that downloading, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use root directory. I'm going to create one directory that's called software. Okay. And inside the software, I'm going to download this JDK. So enter, and now it says wget command not found. That means wget is not installed. So no worry, I'm going to install it. So using yum install wget, and now I got the wget utility, and now I'm going to download this JDK package. Here it is, and it's under progress. You can see it here. Okay, so now it seems it got completed now, the download, and now you can see that I got this file. So I'm going to do nothing, but I'm going to install it. So I just suggested I'm going to run this command to avoid this mistake. I'm just going to copy paste these commands, and we got it done, and the Java is getting installed. And now I'm going to set it up the Java. So now I'm going to find out which Java. So it got installed already, Java-V, probably version, and now it says 1.8.0. that's okay, that's perfectly fine. So probably after installations I don't have to set it up, do all this stuff, because here is a two-way of installation. One is RPM and another one which I have is let me show you. Another one is like a TG file, tar zip file. So if you are using tar zip file, you have to do all these activities, but I have used just a RPM file, so I don't have to do that everything. Okay, so now I'm good with it. So now second thing which I'm going to do, installation of the Tomcat. So Tomcat download, I'm going to download the Tomcat from the Apache website, and which is here, and it's we have 7.0, we have 8.0, so let me install the 8.0, and now you have to get it this zip file, which I want to get it here, zip file, and copy the URL, and again inside this software directory I just download this one, and now you can see that I've got this zip file, and now I'm going to unzip it. So unzip this directory, and you can see this unzip is not found. So no worry, I'm going to install this unzip as well. And remember, this is the kind of setup which you do once, only once. After that, you're going to create the convert the this instance to the image, and every time you're going to use it, so you don't have to repeat the whole process again and again. Okay, so now I just created the Apache, extracted it, and I'm going to rename it to the smaller directories, because that way it's easy to meet for, you know, setting up the instance and very well everything else. So Tomcat, and now I'm going to move this Tomcat directory inside that OPT, and that's where I keep all the software actually, so that way I manage it very well. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to run this Tomcat. So I'm into the OPT, and I go to the CD Tomcat, and then go to the bin, and here we have a file which will start this, which is this startup.bat for the Windows. I'm looking for the Linux version, which is startup.sh. I got it, and now I click on this, and it says permission denied. So let me convert the whole things together. chmod 755.sh. Let me run it, and it says catalans blah blah blah. So basically I have to convert and give the permission to all the directory, because the permission is not granted for this. So let me do this. So chmod 755 recursive 755 to Tomcat. Okay, so now I go to the Tomcat bin, and then startup.sh file, and you can see that Tomcat got started. Now you'll have to find out Tomcat gets started, but whether it's running or not. So now I'm going to grab this process and Tomcat with the Tomcat, and you can see this running perfectly fine, and everything is getting loaded, it's running, it's cool, but I don't know the port which is running along with it. So usually each of these ports in the Tomcat is been defined. Every time the port is been defined using the conf directory, there's one file that is called server.xml. So I'm going to locate the server.xml, and I'm going to find out the port. So basically I'm going to get the connector port, somewhere it should be down. I'm just looking up for it, and then located it, and you can see this 8080 port, connector port. That means my Tomcat is running with this port, 8080 port. So now my IP address with the 8080 port, I should be able to access these resources. So what is my IP address? Let me get it one more time, because probably I might have changed it or something like that. No, it's the same. So here is your port. This is your port, this is your IP address, and the port number is 8080, and I'm going to access my Tomcat here. So I just click on it and enter, and now it says something like it's not loading. So what could be the reason? And if you can guess it, the reason you have, if you have guessed it correctly, yes, the reason is security groups, firewall. You'll have to enable the firewall for 8080 ports, which I have not done so. So that's the reason it's not allowing you. So what you have to do, you have to go to the security groups. you have to go to the one which you have created for this instance, and probably I have used webinars happen Saturday. I'm going to click on it and I'm going to edit, and I'm going to add a rules, create exception for my port number, which is 8080. So I will go the custom TCP rules 8080, and then from anywhere it should be accessible. Save, done. And now if I go and refresh this page, boom. So now we have got this Tomcat up and running, and now we have accomplished two of the tasks. So we got the EC2 up and running, we got the JDK, we got the Tomcat, which is up and running again, and then next thing which we'll have to do is like we have to install the Jenkins. So now let's get install the Jenkins as well. So I'm going to the Jenkins website here, jenkins.io, and I'm going to locate the download Jenkins under this. And remember, if I want to install the Jenkins with the Tomcat, I have to install the tar file. So I'm going to get this URL for the tar file, and here I just come out of it. I go to my directory software where I keep all the software as per the good practice, and here I'm going to download the WAR file. As you can see that the download is in progress. Okay, so cool. I got this WAR file, and you know that's the nature of Tomcat. If you don't know, then the moment I call this Tomcat, I just copy this Tomcat, sorry, Jenkins.war file to the Tomcat directory inside the directory which is web apps. Automatically it will explode. So you want to see that? Let's go ahead and you see that the moment I copy this WAR file, automatically explode, and now Jenkins got installed in the same port / Jenkins. So now you can access the Jenkins as you can see on the screen. So now it's asked for the password. So password is nothing but is there in this location for the Jenkins to access, and I got these keys, put it in the form, and now Jenkins got started. So this is the way you can deploy the Java-based application in EC2, and so easy, right? It's just like you are setting the whole server from the scratch in any other machines like a virtual machines or physical machines. It's like that. So you are not having any steps and procedure changes, rather than you're just playing everything on the fast. The beauty of the EC2 instance is like you get a very faster internet, you get a high speed internet, you can do things faster than in your network and stuff like that. And apart from that, you can increase the RAM, you can create a new instance with the new capacity of the RAM and CPU, and you can attach the volumes the way you wanted and store all the data on the volumes rather than in the instance, which is a temporary storage and stuff like that, and then you can start using it. So now you can see that my Jenkins got started and we have deployed the application. So now I'm going to spend some time answering all of your questions, and before going to the next page, let me see that some of the things which I have it pending for me, which is like a backup. And one more thing, that's a backup, and second thing is like how can you make sure you're not going to complete the same task which I did again and again, because probably you need the same things every time. So how are you going to make sure? So what you're going to do, you're going to create an AMI. Okay, so you're going to create an AMI. So in order to create an AMI, just you go to click on the AMI option here and go to the action, click on the registered new AMI, and now you're going to select what exactly you want. So you have so many things, rather than let's go into this and click on here and image and create an image. So now you can see that I'm having running this EC2 instance and I want to convert into the AMIs. So I click on the image and create an image, and now I am going to image name, let's say Tomcat hyphen Jenkins. So this is the image I want every time. The 30 gigs of RAM as usual. Okay, and then create image. Close. Now I have got this image under the AMIs. Let me refresh it. It will take some time. It's going to take some time. I'm looking for the image which I'm creating. Probably it's taking time. No problem. Let me try using this place. Launch instance, my image. Still it has not come. So it will take some time. So let me try one more time. Create image. This time Jenkins 2 30 and create image. Okay, so create image request received. Probably it takes some time actually. Normally it's pending image We'll have to check the status of this one till we get it. So I've created a 2 image till now. Still it has not come. So yeah, so one has come and it says status failed. And I don't know what's the reason for it. We'll have troubleshoot. Probably I have created a 2 images simultaneously. That's the reason. It's one is failed. It says like the instance is not yet ready to schedule the bundling operation. You may try again shortly. So if I try it again after some time, probably it will be created. But the one instance which I created earlier, still it's been progress probably. So still it's not shown any thing. So that way, and you can see this is pending. So one of the instance which I'm creating right now, it's pending. So it takes some time to create. Once you create this image, you have this image available under the instance launch instance my AMIs, and now you see that you got it. So basically you got it all this instance where this is the failed one, this is the past one. So now you want the another instance to be created with the same setup like a Tomcat and all this stuff. So just go ahead and boot up these machines and continue with the same setups as usual and then set it up. So that's the way you do that. So let me just see my notes again. Yes, backup. So someone asked me the question about the backup. So backups you do with the file system, for the file system. So now if you look at it, if you want to go to volumes, here you have one instance which is running, and let me show you the again. Here I am having one instance running, so I have one volumes which is attached to it, and that's a 30 gigs of hard disk, and type is GP2, and this is a temporary volumes. What do you want to do? You want to create a new volumes, okay? And let's say you want to attach 100 gigs of hard disk, okay? And which, whatever the reason, you have a 3 reason in the Ireland, so you attach to create a snapshot ID and stuff like that, and create it. So this is the volumes which got created. Now let me refresh. You got this volumes. Now this volumes, it says in the state it's available to use it. So now you want to map it, this volume, to any of the EC2 instance. So you're going to click on the volumes, you're going to go to the actions, attach volumes, and you're going to search that which is the instance you want to run it. As of now, you have no instance in this availability zone. That's the reason it's showing no options. So that's the beauty of things. You can assign the volumes to the EC2 instance only if it is in the same availability zone. You cannot do that in a different availability zone. So to avoid these issues, what you have to do, I just want to delete this volumes. It's a storage actually, EBS storage, and now I just click on the EC instance, and I'm going to find out what is the availability zone. Availability zone EU West 1C. So I just go to the volumes, create a volumes, and this time I'm going to create a volumes in the EU West -1C, which is in the same availability zone what my EC2 instance is running, and then create it. And now I just refresh it once, and then going to assign to the instance which I have it. As you can see that it's running. Now this is the way you assign the instance, and this volumes you can access in this particular mapping mount will be there in this, and now you can start using this volumes. So this is the way you can start adding as the volumes you want, more hard disk, more storage and things like that. So this is the way you can start using it. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to spend some time answering some of your questions what you have before getting into the next demo, which is nothing but a S3. Okay, so now, okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to take some questions. We will get the link to, okay, can we request the instance with the required software like JDK etc instead of we install it? Yeah, so Dipali, I did answer this question, and probably this is answered, right? So I hope it is already answered. So there's a next question from the Anil. Can we have domain name for the instance instead of IP address only? So again, if you look at this place, you have a DNS friendly name, which is nothing but the one which is you can find here, DNS friendly name. But here if you say like, okay, you want to attach this particular IP address with the domain, so basically you have to go to the DNS server and you have to map a record. So if you are coming from that background where you are managing the DNS sort of things, you go to your website, the place where you have registered your website, okay, and then go to the DNS manager, and inside that there will be an entry that is called a record, and you have to add this IP address to that a record, and automatically your domain name will be mapped with this IP address. So that way you can start using whatever the things which you have installed in the system. Okay, so now next question is, I'm going to take it from Anup. What is the maximum mirror image we can create, and will they have the same IP address? Of course not. Image is just like a instance image. It's like just like an instance configuration, the operating system and sort of things. You have nothing beyond that. So you have to when you talk about the instance, it's like a configuration and the operating systems and the things like that. You want to keep it ready to get the things done faster rather than spending every time setting up and configuring and all stuff like that. So you will not be having the new IP address. Using that instance AMIs, you can create as many instances you wanted, and each of these EC2 instances will be having different IP address. Okay, so there's one question from the Manoj Pati. How to connect to the newly created Red Hat Linux server EC2 instance? Same process, Manoj. You have to get the keys. You got the PPK file. You can connect using the PuTTY. You got the PM file. You can connect using the SSH. And if it is a Windows, you have RDP, and you get the Windows and password for that. Okay. I'm going to answer one of the question from Anup. Is there any limit on the AMI we can create? No, as of now I have not come across any limits. Probably you can have as many you wanted, depends, like probably, but you don't want to have too many, because again, instance, the image which you created, it's getting stored somewhere and you are paying for that. So there is no limitation as such. As long as you pay for that, there's no problem for the AWS you to have all this objection. So there's one question from the Surya page. What about the security breach? Will data be safe in the AWS? Of course, the data is completely safe in AWS. One of the things which you are doing as of now, you are accessing the resources using the PEM file and PPK file, which is you have to keep it secure. Other way to access your resources using the accounts, using IAM and things like that. Again, you have to secure. Again, you have a security model. This is like a security groups, which is like nothing but a firewall. Using that, you can secure accounts. So there are many other processes also in which you can encrypt the storage, you can encrypt the volumes, and you can safeguard your data, and many more things are available. So like that. So there is one question from Dipali. After creating image, if we shut down the instance, can we use the same image for new instance created? Of course, yes. That is the reason we are creating an image. We storing the image somewhere in the our AWS resources, so that same configuration can be applied while creating the new instance. So that's the purpose of the new instance, like image actually. So after all, that's the purpose. Okay, so this one last question which I'm going to take from the Swati. How to work on the terminal server level backup? Terminal server level backup. So Swati, I'm sorry I couldn't get your question properly. Probably you can rewrite this question so I can understand that. Okay, so yes, you can download and upload this, Rohan. Yes, you can do the download and upload this your images very well. You can do that. Yes. So now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to explain you the next topic which is pending, and I have a limited time for that as well. And that the next topic which we have is S3. Okay. So let me get into the S3. And let me talk about it. So before talking about the S3, let me talk about a little bit of the discussion about the AWS storage. And some of you have lots of confusion about the AWS storage. So basically on AWS, we have three kind of storage. Okay, we have a three kind of storage which we know so far. Okay, so one of the storage we call it ephemeral storage. This storage which is getting assigned, which is getting associated with the EC2 instance when you do the computing. Okay, so this is basically a temporary block level storage. Again, it's a block level storage, but we call it ephemeral storage. Why? Because it's a temporary. Okay, it is a free storage which you can get it with the each EC2 instance. So basically, as I said, and I have reiterated so many times in this session, like this storage you should not use for the storing all of your important data. This is storage only been provided to run your operating system with a minimal storage. Okay, that's all. So it's not been provided for anything else. Okay, so as part of this ephemeral storage, data is lost when instance is terminated or stopped. Again, you should reread this information. Data is lost when instance is terminated or stopped. So even though stopped or terminated, data are lost actually. There is no SLA. That means, in a simple word, AWS is not giving any guarantee to get you that data back, even though if you have stored some important data. Okay, there's no SLA, there's no access speed is guaranteed on that storage. It's only for the running the operating system, nothing more. Okay, it's just for the buffers, just for the cache, just for the operating system data and splash data. Okay, now next, and I have already shown you the demo on this. Next storage which we have like S3 storage. Okay, we call it AWS S3. This is the object based storage. So basically, this services was introduced in 2006. This storage you can access only via the HTTP or HTTPS. So what are the things you can store it here? Audio, video, images, and backups. So basically, if you want to take the example for this, so this is nothing but similar to your Google Drives or Dropbox or box.com, something like that. So this is something similar to that. So you have an unlimited bucket size. So the size is unlimited. So the way you want to store the data is completely limitless. But the thing is, like, each object size, and when I say each object size, that means in simple word, each file size should not cross more than 5 TB. That's a condition. And of course the 5T is like a large, but in terms of when you talk about this large website, some of the files, again, if you talk about the NASA data, and they are those sort of size actually, so they easily can be stored here. And price on storage used and transfer. So basically price are being done on this storage, that's called S3 storage, based upon the uses, how much you are using, what are the capacity you are using, and how much you do the transfer out. That means in simple, if you keep uploading the data on the S3 block object storage, you will not be charged for it. You will be charged only for the amount you are using, but you will not be charged if you upload the data. But the moment you download the data, it will be charged. Okay, so that is the important. And again, it's not a file system, and SLA is been given 99.99%. Okay, so this is the second kind of storage which we have in AWS. Okay, so again, in the S3 itself, there are two kind of storage. One is standard storage, which is the 99.99% durability, and the first 1 TB, the cost is at 0.03 per GB dollars. Okay. Another thing is a reduced redundancy storage. In this, you get the more basically IOPS, and then not IOPS, basically, I'm sorry about it, not IOPS. Reduced redundancy storage, like you get a reduce the durability, okay, and which is not a 99.99%, but it is lesser than that, and it is like that. So while selecting the S3 storage, here you have options whether you want to go for the standard storage or reduce redundancy storage. So they will ask you this option. Now I'm going to show you the demo on this as well, but before that, let me talk about the AWS EBS. Okay, and this is the storage which you are talking about. Okay, this is a storage which is a persistent file system for the EC2. That means you can AWS is taking a backup of these volumes whenever you created, and just now I created a volumes of 100 gigs, which you can see that's elastic block storage. That's a persistent file system which you can map it, mount to any EC2 instance. Okay, and you can transfer between the A to Z, and when we say like A Z is like availability zone, so you can transfer this volume from the one availability zone to another availability zone. Okay, it has an incremental snapshot. So when you say a snapshot, that means automated backup, which has been done by the AWS. So that's the beauty of it. And also EBS leverage S3 from snapshot storage. So in a simple word, what is happening, whenever you do the snapshot of the EBS storage, is being done on the S3, so that way is being leveraged. Okay, here you can set the provision IOPS. You can set the IOPS like input output operations per second. Okay, so you can set, like, if you want the high speed storage or a low speed or standard speed, you can set it up. And this is the storage which I tried out during the adding the volumes and things like that. So now I'm going to get back to the demo, which is nothing but a Amazon simple storage service that's called S3. That is an object-based storage, and this is the place where you can store the files and only access through HTTP and HTTPS. So now I'm going to show you demo for the same. So now I go to my AWS console, and I go to the storage section, which is here, and now I click on the S3. Okay, and now here, the moment you start using S3, here you have a bucket. Bucket is nothing but a kind of terminology. Inside the bucket we store all the objects. In a simple word, all the files you store it. So it's called bucket, and the size of the bucket is unlimited. So the way you want to use it, it's up to you. So create a bucket, and I'm going to create a bucket, let's say a webinar. Okay, and here you're going to select the reason in which you want to create a bucket. So probably I'll go with Ireland itself, and then I click on the create bucket, and as you can see that the bucket name, it says the requested bucket name is one not available. The bucket name says space is shared by all users of the system. Please select the different name and try again. So this is the stuff here. When you create a bucket, the name is global. Again, I'm reiterating, whenever you create a bucket and you give the name, that is global to that particular region. Again, to that particular region. That means the name of the bucket should be unique in that region. Okay, so probably someone else has occupied this name. I just said this is accessible only through HTTP and HTTPS. So of course this has to be unique. Okay, so now I am going to get the name something like webinar 12456, something like that. Okay, and probably I'll get this name. And again, this name is not available. So what I'm going to do, let me create skill speed 1324, something like that, and I created this and I got this name. So probably last two name which I tried it out, it was not available for me. So now I got this skill speed 1234, that's a bucket name, and now this is your bucket, and now you are free to store the file, free to upload as much file you want it, and it's up to you. So now you want to upload few files, you go ahead and then add the files. So suppose I want to push this PPT, let me put it, start upload, and you keep uploading. So now you want to download this file. Now you have to set that file permission. Okay, so you have to set the permission using the properties. So you can set the permission using the properties, or you can set the permission using the directories also, the bucket label also. So inside the bucket, what normally I do, I create a folder, and this folder is like say a release 1 or software or whatever it is, or PPT. It's a PPT, and I'm going to push this inside the PPT. Let me action cut paste. I got it. So now you inside the PPT you have these files, and now I'm going to set the permission of this PPT to properties, details, transfer none, just a second, here it is. So I'm going to set the permission here, and I'm going to add the permission, and let's say make it everyone should be able to download, upload, and things like that. So it should be able to view, and I just set it up every permissions as it needed. Good, I just did it. So now I got this permissions up, and now I want to access this one. So how can you access this one? So I click on it, PPT, and here it is. Refresh is getting delayed. Yeah, this is the IP address, and now I'm going to another browser, and I access, and now it seems like the permission is not there. So let me override the permission here. Here everyone open, save. I just override the file label, and now you can see that it's got downloaded. It's downloading. So that way you can set it up the S3, and you can upload as many files you wanted. It's a object-based storage. So it's like damn cheap, and it's very useful for the storing the movies, music, files, software, exes, packages, and like that. So a lot of data you can store it here. So with this, I'm going to back to the questions and answers, and I'm going to spend some time for answering some of your questions. And before wrapping up this session, before wrapping up the sessions, I would like to invite my coordinator from SkillSpeed. Probably he might be having some questions which he wants to address, and then we can continue with the remaining things. And again, we have a tomorrow session, which is a DevOps session. So just give me 1 second. So let me remind to my coordinator, if he's available. Okay, so I got the confirmation probably as per the instructions which I have got it from the skill speed coordinator. We are going to meet again tomorrow for the DevOps session, and that's I'm sure that will be very useful because we're going to explore the world of the DevOps, many practices, many tools, and some of the best things and combination to talk about it, and which is very useful for us. And now let me spend some time answering all of your questions and before wrapping up this classes. So, okay, so now please ask the questions whatever you have it, and I'm going to help you with these questions. Any questions? Anyone has it? Okay, so there's one question from the Gopi. I have a JBoss Tomcat application in my environment. I want to use Docker container to create a Docker images and deploy them to EC2, AWS EC2 instance sources code in the GitLab and Jenkins to beta. Okay, so it's like this, Gopi. You are having the Docker images, that is very nice, and you are going to use the AWS Docker, AWS container services, which is very fit for your requirements. So probably you should try this Docker container services. Okay. Anil, there's one question from Anil. Are there any copyright issues when storing into the S3? Anil, as long as you are not violating any copyrights, there is no issues. You can store as many files you wanted, but again, you will be violating the copyrights of some of the tools if you start using for the purpose which is not intended for that. So probably storing the files or it's not a problem. You can store as many files you wanted, but copyright issues, AWS is not responsible for it. So it's your account, you will be responsible for it. Okay. So how to associate S3 with EC2? So as I said, Jaideep, EC2 S3 you can access through HTTP. So not only with EC2, you can get associated with any services, no matter with the inside the AWS or outside the AWS, you can access through HTTP. So you can access it through the way if you have permissions over there. Simple. Okay. So, okay. Anup Kalwakur, how to access S3 location from the application, say like that. So basically, as I said, it is HTTP based things. You have to have the URL for that. You have to have a permission for that. So if you have this URL as well as permission, you can access. If you want to access through browser, you will be asked for the access, but again you can access through the APIs also. In that you have to pass the permissions and privileges and things like that. Okay, so I'm going to take one more question from Sriram. How many buckets can you create in AWS? So Sriram, there is no limit set by AWS. You can create as many buckets you wanted, and the thing is, they only care about the storage which you are utilizing, and they only care the amount of data you are downloading it, not even uploading it. Okay, so it's like this. So Harpinder Kaur, what is the mint of 99.99%? So it's like this. they are having the confidence in their services. Like if you go for the standard one, they'll support 99.99%, but in some of the scenario they'll assign you the older storage if you go for the reduced durability. So it's like this. It's just playing with the words, and the cost is having a little bit of the difference, and it's like that. Okay, so next question, which is from Anoop. Will you be sharing example of accessing buckets and folder using APIs? I hope, Anoop, I should have been showing you this demo, but as of now I have a limited times here, and I won't be able to show you this demo, but probably this more sessions can be accessed through skill speed. So if you have interest to know more about the AWS and DevOps and any other tools, please discuss with the coordinator of skill speed, and you can attend the other meetings as well, because we have a session for the almost many topics which is going on parallelly. So you can attend other classes and you can see that how it goes. Okay, so there's one question from the Setu Sinha. The question is, can you explain more on what the roles of AWS developer, associate, architect, etc. Basically, if I get certified, I wanted to understand what kind of job I am looking at it. So it's like this, Setu. You have hundreds of services on AWS. And when you say hundreds of services, like you have almost all the services from the each perspective. You have a services which is good for the IT team, which we have a services which is good for the database team. We have services which is good for the developers team. We have a services which is for the DevOps team as well. We have a services which is for the setting of the large infrastructure, networking, security, big data, artificial intelligence, machine learnings, LDAP, Active Directories, messages, and things like that. So you have a hell lot of services which has been provided by the AWS. Now you have to define a role what you want to become. You want to become a developer on AWS, you want to become a DevOps on AWS, you want to become IT managers or IT admins on the AWS, or you want to become a solution architect which can define and create a architecture of the whole organization. So you have to define your role yourself, and accordingly you're going to get certified. So basically you have to define yourself, not me. So just try to find out what you have interest into. Okay, so there's one question from Anil once again. How can you copy data from the instance to local machine? Is it can be done by conventional method? Okay, so this is a thing actually. It's a normal, see, you have an IP address, you have a keys, you have a username, that's all. So you have everything. Whether you use SCP, whether you use FTP, whether you use any other tools, it's up to you. The only thing which I care about, like the FTP, if it is opening up in the 21 port, it should be accessible, it should be allowed over the security groups. Okay, if you are using SCP, you should be allowed the 22 ports. If you are using HTTP, you should be allowed 80 ports. Or if you are using some other application, you should see what are the ports they are using, and accordingly you can transfer the data. It's up to you. Okay, so there's one question which is from the Gopi Koduru. How to set up failover and disaster recovery environment, and that's one of the most important question on AWS, I believe. This is all about the AWS, and that's the reason we are using AWS. One of the main advantages what we have, like a failover and disaster recovery. So we have so many features on AWS, and probably this is a very less time to talk about it, but here is like auto discovery, elasticity, and then auto scalings and many features. We have a load balancers, you have a DNS records and things like that. So using that, so many technology and so many services we have, using that you can set it up the failover and disaster recovery. Again, it's not just I can answer you in one word. Probably it's hours of demo. I need to give it to you, and then you can understand the things, but you can just understand the things. Okay, so when I say, there's one question from the Surya Tej, what what is the meant by spinning an instance? So when you say spinning an instance is like just creating an instance with some of the configuration with the cloud formation templates and something like that. So spinning is like creating the instance with your customized environment and setups and configuration. So it's like this. Okay, so with this, what I'm going to do, I am going to wrap it up this class, and I'm going to request everyone to attend the tomorrow session. And in the tomorrow session, we're going to talk about the DevOps. Basically, we're going to understand the DevOps, what is the exact real meaning of the DevOps, various tools and technology, and some of the demo as well as part of this tomorrow sessions. And then we're going to see that how it goes, and we're going to see how we can share the learnings and we can learn from each other and things like that. So now I'm going to wrap it up this session with the same thing, and you're going to come back to if you want to reach out to me, you please reach out to my coordinator, skill speed coordinator, and he will direct the communication to me for the any questions what you have. And I would love to help you more than that what we have in demo and in this webinar. So let's get going and then see how it goes. Okay guys, so let's see you, have a nice evening, and let's see you tomorrow same time for the DevOps session. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks Naga, thanks Ganna, thanks Sriram, thanks Vijendra, thanks Dipali, thanks Vijay, thanks Ekta, thanks Chandra, thanks everyone, thanks Pavan, thanks Deepan, thanks Vishal. Thanks everyone. Thanks Vijay. Thanks Rohan. Thanks Jaideep. Thank you everyone. Let's see you tomorrow. Have a nice evening. Let's rock. Bye.